Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Bank to the Future Live. Never a dull moment in crypto. What a crazy week it's been, as usual. So today, for those of you new to this show that are watching Bank to the Future Live for the first time, this is your opportunity to ask me questions. I tend to do the first half of this show giving updates to our Bank to the Future investors, our Bank to the Future token holders, and our community in general and companies in the fintech space. We go through, for those of you not familiar with this, we tend to have I give a lot of content on the crypto market in general, banking, finance, fintech, crypto, Bitcoin, everything related. But this is just for our BnkToTheFuture.com customers and clients and community and Bank to the Future token holders to get an update on everything Bank to the Future. But we also cover industry updates. So today we're obviously going to be covering some of the more elephants in the room, which is the BitFinex IEO, the initial exchange offering, and also the Binance hack, and some other stories from our portfolio companies. So I'm just going to switch over to my show notes. And just while I do that, remember, if you want to ask a question, there's a couple of ways of doing that. Firstly, you can head over to our Telegram group if you're a member there already in the community. And some of our community managers will be monitoring that for questions. Use the live chat. If you're watching live or if you're watching the recording, then just use the comments here and we'll try to pick those up next week or use the live chat on YouTube for this live broadcast. The other way is use hashtag BFLive on Twitter. That's hashtag BFLive, BF standing for Bank to the Future, live. Then we'll try and pick your questions up on Twitter. So let's jump right in. I tend to spend the first half going through portfolio updates and other general things. Got lots I'd like to cover for the Bank to the Future community. And then the second half we'll dedicate to taking your questions. So just going through different pitches that are live on the platform right now. We are just sending out, for those of you that are priority access members, for those of you that were existing investors in AirTM, AirTM is the company that provides a crypto-based US dollar account in emerging markets, and they have many customers in Venezuela taking advantage of the fact that crypto gives them some stability in a time of hyperinflation. But if you're an existing investor, we already sent out the link and the email for you to reinvest in the next round now that AirTM has secured their Series A. And some of the investors include Coinbase Ventures, and you can co-invest on the same terms. For those of you that hold 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your Bank to the Future account, then you will be receiving a priority access deal. We've already sent out 2 this week, and the third one will come tomorrow if we can get that signed off and ready for you to participate in the remaining small allocation we have left in AirTM. The second thing is this week we put a couple of new pitches live. The first one is BitRefill. And BitRefill is both a retail Bitcoin payments play where they use gift cards in order to allow people to spend their Bitcoins. We're just getting my musical microwaves in the background. Hope you enjoyed that. And also they have a Lightning channel pay where they've got a product that allows people to easily use and start up a Lightning node and use their network, trying to help with adoption on Lightning as one of the very first integration partners into the Lightning network. We put also BTR Exchange. They're doing a follow-on round after securing their follow-on investment. And we're allowing existing investors to invest in the preemption rights, and priority investors can co-invest in that as well. All of those 3 are live and listed to any qualifying member of BnkToTheFuture.com. We also, and relates to a topic that we'll be discussing later, for those existing shareholders in BitFinex, you would have received an email inviting you to their new Leo token offering. And if you're a priority access member, you also would have received an invitation for those that want to participate through our syndicate in the BitFinex Recover. More of that to actually be covered shortly. We're not opening that up. That's exclusive, just like our secondary market pre-allocations. they're only open to our premium members that hold a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on their BnkToTheFuture.com account. Also closing soon, we've got Phase, which is also in the crypto wallet space to gift card space, allowing people to spend crypto and make it more usable. And we close our Ripple Labs allocation, which is the pre-allocation before it goes onto our secondary market. For those that want to buy and sell shares in Ripple Labs, the company, that's not XRP, the cryptocurrency. Ripple Labs, the company, is the largest holder of XRP, the cryptocurrency, but this is Ripple Labs, the company. That allocation was taken. And coming soon, we've also got deals coming up with Kraken, the Wallet Edge, Token Market, and we've also got, what have we got there? Oh, and the next, yes, this is a new announcement just for this. So we've got several things that are exclusive to BF Live. The next priority access deal that will be going out to our premium members, and repeat again, just in case those of you are joining the live broadcast right now, premium members means you hold a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your BnkToTheFuture.com account. The next exclusive premium deal is just for token holders, which is your opportunity for blockchain.com before it goes live on our secondary market. If you head over, in fact, I'm going to do the screen share for this one. Bear with me a second, just while I sort that out. But if you head over to our secondary market right now, you're going to notice a number of updates. Hopefully you can see me disappearing to a dot right now. But let me go over here. And for those of you that are new to the platform, remember this is a logged in account, but if you head over to the invest page, this is where you see all those new deals. For me to see moderating, for me to give me a shout if you can't see the screen or if there's any issues, otherwise I'll just continue. You can see the Bit Refill deal here, which has been popular. It's now in overfunding, about 117% funded. The BTR exchange, Bitcoin Romania, and you can see the Phase deal that's coming to a close shortly. So those are the ones that are available, new deals available to all our members. But then also we're launching out in beta our secondary market. You'll notice that we've added our video here, so please do check that out. If you press play, you'll see our brand new video there for our secondary market that will be rolling out wider as we come out of beta. But you'll also notice that we've been launching new features in beta and new markets. Today, we're very happy to announce that we've just put our third market out into beta. We started with the BitFinex SPV. We then went into the Circle SPV, and we've now just literally fresh off the boat is our Coinbase SPV. For those of you not familiar with our secondary market, the way that it works is Bank to the Future is a shareholder via our special SPV structure in many of the largest companies in crypto. And the ones that are more established brands make it to our secondary market. You're not actually buying and selling shares in the company itself. So this isn't Coinbase, Bitfinex, or Circle going public. It's not a public offering. They're still private companies, but we own shares through our SPV, and we make a market in our SPV. And our SPV is just a fancy way of saying a special company that owns shares, where every single share in that company is backed by one share in the underlying company. And so you can head over to, we've had a lot of volatility in Bitfinex. We passed the $1 million traded mark in beta, which is great. We weren't expecting to go, too much, because we haven't been promoting that too much. But obviously, with the Bitfinex scenario, there's people that want to change their allocations, and we've got a decent order book fulfilling there. We had a big day of volume the other day, and you can see all trades here. But you can also see that we've integrated the markets page with the company page. This is designed so that you can find the information. We had people that were getting a bit tired of the user experience and not being able to find the information. Now, when you head over to the markets page, you can go right here to company info, where you can see more details. You can go here to the discussion page as well. And on the discussion page is where any qualifying investor on Bank to the Future can discuss their views and their opinions. And the investor zone is a place just for those that actually are investors and that already own the shares, so they can discuss in a more quiet environment, just with existing shareholders only. So we're proud to announce that, and we're proud to announce the Coinbase deal. Also, just look at some of the improvements that we've made on displaying the company information. So we have the overview of what, who, and the underlying company is here. Some further details. We've also added the history of all the funding rounds, so you can kind of chart and see here on this lovely chart the price valuation increases when the funding rounds were, and some of the Bank to the Future data as well. So we welcome all of your suggestions and feedback on how we can make this data better and more transparent, given that these are, at the end of the day, private companies with limited access to information. And this is still very high risk, high return investing with limited access. It's not public companies. They don't go through the same requirements as that, but we're trying to, based upon the feedback of our investors, create more liquidity into and give people the ability to build a portfolio in crypto companies. Let me just put my face back while I cover some additional things. Give you the opportunity to build a portfolio. Some of you might have missed it. You might not have been around. We started our mission way back in 2010. And we're the very first crypto securities business that deals with the crypto fintech market. But some of you might not have been around, and you joined the crypto market at different stages. So you now get another shot to buy those in a secondary trade. And in beta, while liquidity is low, it creates some interesting arbitrage opportunities, whereby the SPV might be trading at a premium or discount to the actual value that the VC invested in the direct equity. So for those of you, make sure you go back through the archives of Bank to the Future Live, and you can see some of those subjects covered right from the beginning. Also, do help us out. If you've liked the content so far, before I go through the rest of it, please do like this video. Please do share this video with any other investors that you think might be interested in building a portfolio in the future of finance. And also, if you want to never miss another episode of Bank to the Future Live, then please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And remember, hit the little bell symbol next to the subscribe button, and YouTube will notify you every time we go live, every time we release a new video. So let's get back to the show notes. So secondary market, we covered that we've now got Circle, BitFinex SPV, and the Coinbase SPV. We'll go through some of the market news. We also released the secondary market video. What else have we got? Yeah, new details on the company page. In terms of the Bank to the Future token, we have noticed a steady uptick that it seems to be consistently producing about $1 million of liquidity in these bear markets. It's not bad, it's not good. But as we come out of the bear markets and we start to roll out more of the utility and give more and more people reasons to use the Bank to the Future token, at the moment we have a couple of killer user cases which are working well, which is firstly, you get premium access to all the deals. You get deals that aren't open to anyone else but our premium members. But also the big use case is about 65 to 70% of all trades on our secondary market have been using the Bank to the Future token to pay their trading fee. If you put those Bank to the Future tokens on your BnkToTheFuture.com account, you can pay your trading fees using it, and you get a 50% discounted trading fee. So as our volume has increased, we've noticed that the demand to buy the Bank to the Future token is going up, but also other use cases like our integration with coin payments that allows people to use the Bank to the Future token at any merchant processor supported by coin payments. One of our other portfolio companies as well that recently did a great funding round and gave a really good price increase to the early investors in the seed round through Bank to the Future. So I'm now going to switch back over to my screen as well and go through some of the portfolio company updates. as well as the main topic, which is obviously the BitFinex IEO, for those of you that want updates on that. So hopefully you'll see my screen again, and I'm just going to head over to some of the news stories. So obviously the big elephant in the room this week is the Binance hack. Unfortunately, Binance was subject to compromise, some challenges with API and two-factor authentication. We hope that Binance gets up off their feet and recovers from that. Luckily, they have a good conservative model whereby they take a percentage of their profit and put into funds in case they need to recover from any kind of hack. So the story that I don't like that came from this is CZ posted on Twitter, which I took a bit of a compromise with, that, 1 second, are we still live? Famido, are we still okay? I had someone message me. We're still good?
Yeah, we are good. It's just your audio was a little bit
quiet?
I think it was coming in and out.
Yeah, I just had someone call me on the phone and I switched over to my 4G, so I was checking we're all on live again. Hopefully that's all good.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I didn't like the fact that CZ wanted to explore whether he could do a reorg of the Bitcoin chain. I'll put that down to the fact that he was up for 29 hours trying to recover from and figure out the compromise, because I've traditionally very much liked some of the things that CZ has done. But I didn't like the fact that he thought that it would even be feasible to explore whether he could coordinate with some of his mining contacts and do a reorg of the chain. So I'm going to accept that. I'm going to try and put that out to bad judgment after being up for 29 hours. And then he's shortly retracted the comment, realizing it wasn't possible. But I really didn't like the fact that he did that. But I wish Binance all the best in their recovery, and well done on having good policies so that no clients are losing money in these challenging times of trying to secure people's crypto assets and crypto and Bitcoin in an environment of centralized challenges, I guess. So the next story we have here is that kind of following on from other of our portfolio companies. Last week or the week before, we talked about how new board hires and new corporations are joining, leaving their traditional corporations. Well, Chronicled is doing a lot in the corporate side, and there's an interesting announcement there around some of the partners that they're bringing in into their Internet of Things solution. So check out that, and congratulations to Chronicled for that announcement. Also, check out the Blockstream blog. We were very happy that Blockstream announced their partnership with BnkToTheFuture on the Liquid network. For those of you familiar with some of the work that we've been doing, the BF wallet is our security token wallet. And at the moment, you can use it we just released Bitcoin support. And obviously, because BnkToTheFuture token is Ethereum-based token, then it also supports Ethereum. And we've also released some of our first security tokens where you can get your address whitelisted. You can connect it with your BnkToTheFuture.com account so that you can participate and get ready for the security token industry. But another integration we've been working on that Liquid, the Blockstream team announced, was that the BF wallet and the BnkToTheFuture security token solution is in the process of being integrated with the Liquid network, which we're ultra excited about, that now we can start to see the security token industry happen on the most secure blockchain and the most conservative blockchain, which is Bitcoin. And so we're really excited about ushering in that. And we've also got some projects that we're working on right now in order to launch onto the Liquid network that will be integrated with our BF wallet. And we've got a lot of deals that we're currently working on that we're really excited to announce to you as we move forward. And the way to make sure that you don't miss any of those announcements is to make sure you're getting our newsletters and also joining BnkToTheFuture live each and every week at this time. We haven't missed a week yet, and we intend to continue that and get better at this. But the final story that I wanted to cover is the big elephant in the room and the title of the video, which is the BitFinex IEO. Now, there's been a lot of news around this. There's been a lot of misunderstanding, good understanding, a lot of debate. One thing with being a shareholder in BitFinex, I should disclose, I am personally a shareholder, and Bank to the Future, the company, creates a secondary market in the BitFinex SPV. So you are welcome to discount my personal views, and none of this should be used as financial advice. The views that I'm expressing right now about BitFinex are not the views of Bank to the Future. This is highly speculative. I don't have additional insider information other than being as close as the information is publicly viewable, and having a self-interest keeping up to date with all this stuff. Look out for CNBC Crypto Trader. I gave an interview on there that should be coming out soon with regards to the BitFinex situation. For those of you that are not familiar or might have seen a different version of the story, BitFinex has been plagued with challenges from the banking system ever since Wells Fargo attacked the Taiwanese banks that it was using at the time, in order to try and exercise influence, in my opinion, over the cryptocurrency market, because one, Tether was going into the billions and billions, and BitFinex is the holding company. iFinex is also the majority shareholder in Tether. They wanted, personally, I think they believe that they want the business in the US and that they want to do it in that way. But there's been a constant attack, which has meant that there's challenges around banking. BitFinex has to think outside the box. It had its hack recovery, which led to the issuance of the very first security token. You can go back to other episodes of Bank to the Future Live and get my views and the inside story of how Bank to the Future was a part of converting the tokens into equity that led to our shareholding in the BitFinex SPV. And that was, they used financial innovation to get out of that scenario and to recover from that and create a profitable opportunity for those that were speculating on the recovery. Now, more recently, they've had to switch banking again. And for those of you that are not familiar with my content, you'll know that sending billions of dollars around the banking system is the reason why Bitcoin actually exists, because it gives you a way to actually move money that you own it yourself without a counterparty, and send it to others. And then when you have to onboard into the fiat system, you go through all the regulated environments, but in the meantime, it allows you to transfer value around to other people within the ecosystem. But because of the fact that all the crypto-to-crypto exchanges, particularly Binance and others, because they grew so fast by relying upon Tether and outsourcing their banking to BitFinex ended up with billions and billions in the crypto market, because all these crypto-to-crypto exchanges did not need to go through the problem of figuring out how to deposit billions. They use Tether instead, and BitFinex ends up with all the dollars as a result of this through Tether. And when you're trying to move those amounts of money, you have all sorts of challenges, especially when you're doing it outside the US. And so therefore, it creates all sorts of political plays, challenges, banking plays, and the reason that we're all involved in creating Bitcoin in the first place to solve some of these challenges. Well, more recently, they had to use a payment processor in order to fulfill some of the Tether withdrawal demands. And that payment processor, Crypto Capital, got themselves in trouble. BitFinex, as far as I can see from the public information, cooperated in providing information. And that information led to the New York Attorney State General's problems around the fact that Crypto Capital had those funds seized because allegedly they were dipping into the toes of client money at the banking level, and they were shadow bank without a banking license. So BitFinex finds itself in a challenge where the government has seized $850 million of Tether's money, allegedly, from all the public information that I can see. And therefore, they adjusted their terms and conditions to let people know that it's now that they figured out a way of trying to meet some of their demands by fulfilling a loan. And I gave all the story and my perspective on it last week in Bank to the Future Live. End of the story is that the government allegedly has seized funds from crypto capital, and those funds belong to those who own Tether, which is administered through through the BitFinex system. And therefore, there is an $850 million hole while they're waiting for those funds to be returned that are being held by governments in different jurisdictions. So then this announcement happened from the New York Attorney General Office, and there's been a back and forth ever since. The publicly available reports and information are available for download on the BitFinex Bank to the Future company page, for those of you that haven't seen those yet. But they decided to actually issue a token in order to plug that gap in the meantime. And for those of you that are priority access token holders, we're not releasing this because it's a private sale of those tokens. But from all the information that we can see in soft commitments, almost all of that $1 billion have been subscribed to in soft commitments, and they're distributing the token purchase agreement as we speak. We allowed, because our shareholders in the SPV wanted to gain access to being able to do that, we syndicated a part of this to our qualifying members. And for those Bank to the Future token holders can get a hold of that. We're going to be closing it up within the next 24 to 48 hours. But we just put that on. We're not going to be making that available to all. It's just for those more familiar with the situation that have been following it, for example, shareholders. And our SPV shareholders, we allowed a syndicate to come through. The idea behind this is that they will eventually be launching an initial exchange offering platform. As the funds become unseized, they will be paying down either through profits or return of those funds. And then a lot of the token supply will be diminished as those things are repaid. And the token is to be used for all sorts of different things within the BitFinex ecosystem. They never intended to launch this token. They just react as resilient as they are to the situations that they're faced with, as they did with the hack recovery. Because from all my experience, I see a team of people that are dedicated to meeting their obligations, both on the compliance side and to their traders and their customers and their investors. So we look forward to seeing what happens with that. As I said, this was some of these things I'm intertwining my personal opinions, my experiences, and feel free to discount all this based upon the fact that I have a bias as a shareholder, and the fact that Bank to the Future makes a secondary market and tries not to have a bias, but deliver the information so you can do your own research, you can make your own decisions, and you can decide how to act upon that in a high-risk, high-return environment. And we provide all the disclosures that we can in order for you to make your effective decisions. So that's the end of that story. And for those of you that are qualifying members, you can head over to the trade page and you can check out, how the market has reacted at different points of this story. And if you're not in the US, we will look to eventually have our US strategy for our secondary market, but at the moment it's not open to US. But some of our primary offerings that are signed off by our US broker-dealer team are open to those. I don't think we have any deals open to US at the moment, but please do be patient with us because we do release deals when they get signed off by our US broker-dealer. But some of the companies, for different reasons, don't necessarily want the exposure of opening up to the US for political reasons and regulatory reasons and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to move over now to questions. We've done all the stories. We're going to go back here. Hopefully you'll see my face now. And Famida's been going through the live chats, collating questions from Telegram and Twitter and different mediums. And let's try and cover as many as we can. Let's see how we're doing for time. Oh, exactly on the halfway point. Great. Normally I speak for a little bit over, but now we've got time to take as many questions as we can. So fire away for me. What you got?
All right. So it's looking really busy in the live chat. There's quite a few questions today, so it's good we have some time. Right. So I'm going to go with the first question from the live chat. Actually, I mean, we have loads of questions from last week, but let's get into this. Let's go with this question. Hang on one second. Simon, if you have the time, please can you discuss a little about the failed BeSave investment by telling the story you can reinforce to some of our investors. These are high-risk investments, no crybabies.
So unfortunately, I'm not able to tell. There is an investor zone, and when there's information, there's an investor zone available for you to just, when you want to discuss private shareholder information. But that is one of our failed investments, one of our failed companies, and now the company is closed. I guess I can tell you our perspective of what actually happened. But the company just simply failed. It was a very early stage company. They were trying to actually give people interest accounts with their Bitcoin and their crypto. Behind the scenes, they were actually doing that with margin lending, and then obviously with this, when the BitFinex hack, they ended up in a situation there because they were margin lending, and they just simply couldn't get to their next funding round. We didn't see enough progress at Bank to the Future in order to launch their Series A to our investors. We like to see more progress before we do a second round, and we were looking for them to secure a lead investor. We made some introductions. We tried to support them where we can, but they couldn't get their next funding round, and they realized they're in a situation where the business model just wasn't ready. They didn't secure the funding. They weren't profitable, and therefore the founder tried to find a new management team that might be able to support them. They facilitated that. That new management team couldn't turn the company around, and they decided that it's time to close the company, and they gave it a shot for as long as they could. And that is one of the deals that didn't make it, unfortunately. So that's all the information that I have. And they disclosed the information where they could. They shared the challenges on the investor zone, but the company just didn't make it. The management team couldn't turn it into a successful deal, and they decided that it was time to call it quits when they couldn't get the next round of funding.
All right. Another question here. Should the edge round increase the value of Airbits once completed?
We'll save that information for when we release the edge pitch, because we can't release the investment terms until it's all agreed. And the last thing I want to do is, so the way that we work at Bank to the Future is we tend to look for a lead investor, and it tends to be an industry insider, an angel investor, an institutional venture capitalist that goes through the due diligence process and sets the terms. Once they've reached those negotiations, we look to put together a syndicate and co-invest on the same terms. If they don't have a lead investor, we either take the decision to lead on our own, like we did with Bitstamp, for example, in the past, or we'll introduce them to someone that might be able to lead and help them and try and support them in order to do that. Once those terms are all agreed, we then co-invest on the same terms and offer that to our SPV investors and put together a syndicate. We don't like to release the terms until we know 100% that is confirmed, because sometimes things can change in the negotiations. So I'm forecasting at the moment the aim is to open it up to new investors. So it's going through our US broker-dealer due diligence process. We're hoping we can reveal those details to you next week, but the lead investor at this stage is secured with additional due diligence, and hopefully next week we'll have a live update for you. And existing investors will be able to reinvest on the same terms. Then we give it to priority access members that hold a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens. Then 48 hours after that, we open it up to anything that's left over on the listed page of the Bank to the Future platform.
All right, I'm going to change it up now and talk about the BF mobile wallet. Can we get any more info about our wallet and chain? And will we move from ERC20 and Ether?
So for the BF wallet, then we are planning on having a system that supports both Ethereum-based security tokens and Bitcoin-based security tokens. For now, that's all we have in our plans. In order to support Ethereum-based security tokens, we've done an integration with our portfolio company partner, Securitize. And Securitize is building protocol and systems around security tokens on Ethereum. And for the Bitcoin-based tokens, we've got a partnership with Blockstream that has been supporting us in doing an integration with the Liquid network. So those are the two different things. If you're referring to the Bank to the Future token, I think at this stage, trying to transition the Bank to the Future token to a liquid-based token built upon Bitcoin, I don't think now would be the time to do that. There is a very buoyant ecosystem around security tokens and utility tokens on Ethereum. I would love for this all to be done in Bitcoin, and if we were launching from scratch right now, we would have done a liquid token, definitely. But the time that we launched the token, that infrastructure and technology was not available to us. So is it worth doing the switch? We have made no decision on that. We have no intention of doing that right now, but we remain open-minded as the ecosystem evolves. And if we were to ever do something like that, then we just simply administer it through something like the BF wallet, where you could do a one-for-one swap onto a new protocol if the ecosystem evolves. No decisions made, but we're quite happy with the progress of having an ERC20 token at the moment, and there's still a very buoyant ecosystem building around that. So no plans at this stage, but we will completely stay up to date and watch the market. We've also got some exciting announcements coming about some expansions to the team that we will be announcing in the coming weeks and months as well.
All right, so I've got a comment about the BF wallet. I see that the BF wallet has improved. I wonder if one day we can allow trading on the app or even see our portfolio.
Never say never. We're working on some integrations at the moment. The one I can announce is that certainly, yes, one day you will be able to see your portfolio, and from within the wallet, be able to look at new deals, priority access deals, or normal listed deals. But we're working, those have taken a bit of a back burner because the current roadmap that we're working on right now is the rebuilding of the funds and portfolio section on the main BnkToTheFuture.com web application. Once we've rebuilt those, we can start looking at how those integrate into the BF wallet. But at the moment, our user experience and design for the portfolio section and fund section of the account is just completely below our standards right now. We're going through an automation of deposits and withdrawals. We're going through an integration with our new banking partner that allows us to do 35 different fiat currencies. And we're rebuilding the way that the information is presented on the portfolio and fund section. So it's going to be significantly improved and a better user experience. But there's limited resources, unfortunately. We would love to be putting that straight into the BF wallet, but the BF wallet team is a much smaller team than the main BnkToTheFuture.com web application. But also in terms of trading functionality, there are some longer term roadmap goals that might allow for a non-custodial way of doing that. But nothing that we're working on at this stage. The end goal is certainly something we'd like to get to, and please do let us know. One of the things that we've been discussing with the marketing team is how we can communicate our roadmap better and have you interact with voting on the features that you would like to see next, so that we can engage you as a Bank to the Future token holder, as a Bank to the Future investor, or one of the fintech companies that are part of our ecosystem, or portfolio companies, engaging us in having more of an input on what we do next. So these are things we'd love to do, haven't got around to doing them yet. But thank you for the suggestion. The more you talk about the things that you'd like to see, the more it's going to get our attention, and we can push our team to prioritize that over something else.
Speaking about the roadmap, we have a question here about withdrawals and deposits. When will it be automated?
This is actually in development as we speak. For those of you new to the Bank to the Future ecosystem, we originally built our system around pitches. So what that means is that every time we launch a new pitch on the platform, we have an escrow partnership, a banking partnership, a card payment partnership, a custodial services for crypto wallets and altcoin conversions and all sorts of stuff to try and make as many payment methods as possible so that you can invest in the way that's right for you. But what we started to notice as we launched the secondary market is that more and more people were wanted to have the ability to deposit and withdraw. At the moment, we've got somewhat of a manual process because we weren't comfortable doing that and still fulfilling our obligations as a securities business. Remember, we are not a cryptocurrency exchange, which tends to be subject to money service business rules. We are a securities business, which is subject to securities license rules and also our anti-money laundering requirements and obligations. Now, we've been building lots and lots of systems to automate those processes, but it wasn't until those were fully automated that we were then comfortable integrating the deposits and withdrawals so that they meet the triggers of our securities rules and our anti-money laundering rules that we have to adhere to as a company. So now we're very comfortable with that process. We're in active development of automations of deposits and withdrawals so we can speed those up. And then we've got to plug them together. But remember, if you want to do everything in a self-custodial way, that's where the Bank to the Future wallet comes in. You can store your Bitcoin, you can store your Ethereum, you can store your Bank to the Future tokens. You can connect them with your BnkToTheFuture.com account. And then you can invest on a pitch-by-pitch basis direct from your wallet or your external wallet or however you want to do that. But if you want to use our secondary markets, then unfortunately you have to bear with us because we don't have an automated process for deposits and withdrawals yet. That's all a work in progress. If I were to put a time frame on it, look for something in the next couple of months. I'll be giving you updates. I like to be more conservative, but we'll give you updates each week. You come on Bank to the Future Live.
Next question here. So when the BF token is used on the secondary market and the fees are received by Bank to the Future, what happens to these tokens? Are they held by Bank to the Future, burnt or traded out? What is the strategy with these tokens that have been used?
They are held by the bank. Is held as revenue, just like all of our other trading fees, and added to our company balance sheet. At the moment, we have not touched them.
Yeah, for a second.
Okay, that was because the call came in.
Yeah, so if you could start your answer again, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so at the moment, they are just held as revenue for our company, just like all of our other trading fees. We don't do anything with them at the moment. We just keep them there in cold storage. We are actively investigating what we could do with those without making the Bank to the Future token a security, because that's not what we want to do. While we are very big fans of the security token ecosystem, the whole reason we launched the Bank to the Future token was to be able to use it as a membership token, to be able to use it to reward people that were participating in due diligence and investor relations, and also to give discounted trading fees so that they could use it as a payment method. If we start burning tokens, there's a risk that the token will then not be able to be bought and sold on a cryptocurrency exchange and only on a security token exchange, because it might create properties that make it more from a cryptocurrency into a security. And we're making sure that we're investigating that does not actually happen, because we want to use this genuinely for its utility and for a payment method for our loyal customers using it. So we have no objection to burning those. In fact, we think it's a great idea. But before we do anything like that, we just want to make sure that we've done all our research and investigation around whether that would make it a security. And we want to avoid that because, for the reasons that we've said, because we want to have this as a utility, not as a security. We'll be doing other things with security tokens. Bank to the Future itself will be traded on our secondary market, but the Bank to the Future token was not intended for that purpose, and we don't want it to fill that purpose because we've got other things we want to do with that token to build the ecosystem.
Another token-related question. This is from the live chat. Will we be able to store T0 security tokens on the BF mobile wallet?
I met the T0 team last in Cancun at Satoshi Roundtable, and I had a discussion about doing just that. We haven't followed up on those conversations yet. We don't have a formal partnership. We're very close to the T0 team. We support them in any way we can. We love what they're doing. And if it makes sense for us to support the T0 security token in the Bank to the Future wallet, then we need to explore a custom integration with their protocol and standards, because it's slightly different to the securitized one. But at the moment, that hasn't made front way into our roadmap. It could be as we expand more partnerships with T0 and also expand the size of the BF wallet team, because at the moment they've already got the next 6 months planned of things that they'd like to do, including Touch ID, including Liquid, and including deeper integrations with the BnkToTheFuture.com platform. So it's not making the front of the roadmap right now, completely open to the idea. So if you let us know if that's what you'd like to see, then we can explore an integration with the T0 ecosystem, and we'll contact the team again.
Great, thank you. With tokens being used less now due to the regulatory reasons you give in favor of equity, do you see portfolio exits and maybe BF Global itself going the more traditional IPO route and unlisted equity converted this way?
At this stage, and I can never say never, we do have people within our boards that would like to do some kind of, we've explored, Hong Kong listing and things like that in the future. I'm more fighting for the financial innovation stage. I'd like to do, I see, firstly, utility tokens, I believe, do have a big use case. Just because volume around speculation is down doesn't mean volume around utility is down. We're seeing more and more people use the Bank to the Future token, and we've noticed an uptrend in that of people, especially as we've made people more aware of what we're doing, and made the utility of it better and better ourselves, as well as different integrations like coin payments. Now we see a future for the utility token market, and we also see a future for putting securities on blockchains and the securities token market. Two very different things. I think they both have a bright future. I don't think utility tokens are going to go or disappear. I think they present an amazing opportunity to build environments and ecosystems around people that want to all be a part of an ecosystem. And security tokens are able to be sold purely as investments. And security tokens can be done through a traditional equity as well. You can do an equity round on Bank to the Future. We can support you in converting that into a security token, and then we'll be building more and more around the security token environment. I think they all have a future, but Bank to the Future itself, we don't have plans at this stage. While there have been discussions around going public, we'd much rather continue the Bank to the Future secondary market, be one of the companies on the Bank to the Future secondary market, and then continue to explore what opportunities there are with securities tokens and facilitate the disruption of the capital markets and upgrading of the capital markets, as opposed to keeping with the status quo. So no plans at the moment, not opposed to it. We do have people in our team that would like to see something like that happen. We're more interested in eating our own dog food, as it were, and being a pioneer in the industry, doing what we think other people are going to be doing in the future.
Okay. What is the BF exposure to BitFinex should it go down? And Tether, which I think is amongst the crypto held. I realized that there is an indirect stake in BitFinex should there be an exit, basically. how will it affect how will it affect BF, and how will it affect our users?
Okay, well, okay, so let me try and deconstruct some of that. So let's start with Tether. So iFinex is the parent company, and iFinex owns different companies that do different things, including the BitFinex.com trading platform, and Tether is also one of the companies in the iFinex group. So if Tether were to go down, what would have to happen in order to do that? Again, these are my personal opinions. These are not opinions of the Bank to the Future. These should not be used as financial advice. You should not make any recommendation or investment based upon this. This is not a recommendation. This is just me speculating, working through the question as my personal opinion as we go through this. So firstly, the big ones that would go down as a result of Tether going down would be the crypto-to-crypto exchanges. The crypto-to-crypto exchanges like Binance rely heavily upon Tether at the moment because they never got their banking partnership sorted to this stage. And there would be a big hole from those situations. But then what does it actually mean? It means that someone would have to seize those dollars. Now, who's going to seize those dollars? And if those dollars are actually obligated to people that own Tether, the Tether token, then I don't know what the legal system around determining, how a government institution could steal money. It's not like a bailout where there's fractional reserve or the money doesn't exist. It's meant to be back one-to-one. If there's something missing, then those dollars have gone somewhere. If they can't get a banking partnership, I guess they'd have to take $4 billion, find someone that would turn it into cash, bury it in the ground, and it become backing for Tether, operating outside of the banking system. Who knows? Then if, these are the types of scenarios, then what exposure does that have? Well, if BitFinex, the company, wanted to plug the gap for Tether, then obviously that would mean that there's, whether they've got the funds to do that or not, that's just a situation of how they actually decide to deal with that scenario. In terms of Bank to the Future and how we're exposed, personally, I'm a shareholder in BitFinex. Bank to the Future makes allows people to play. We've got an SPV that owns shares in BitFinex. And behind that is investors that can place buy and sell orders to other qualifying investors in our OTC secondary market. If BitFinex goes bust, then anyone that owns shares in those SPVs instantly worth zero, like the company that we were talking about earlier. That does not have a direct impact on Bank to the Future, other than we have dissatisfied investors that invested in a company that went bust. But that is the high risk, high return nature. We will have companies that go bust. We do everything we can to make those risks understood by investors. And any feedback or any more we can do to make those risks understood, we try and disclose those as well. So it has negative consequences because we don't like unhappy investors that invest in bad things. But at the same time, investors are making their own investment decisions. We make opportunities available, and our investors, if they're qualified, decide whether they want to invest in those things. We can't take responsibility for the companies. All we can do is try and make the right disclosures, facilitate investor relations where we can, and try and allow people to buy and sell based upon as much equal information as we can. And we try and do that where we can. Bank to the Future will continue. So far, the BitFinex team have shown us and their investors a willingness and desire to always do right by their shareholders and do right by their customers. And they tend to create very clear and good financial engineering where they can in an environment that's subject to constant change, constant challenges. And that's why the nature of the beast, why this is a high risk, high return environment. But the investors that made the last risk in the hack recovery were faced with an ultra high return environment for doing that, both in share price appreciation, in dividends, and in terms of tokens that were issued and other follow-on opportunities. So we can't say that that's going to happen again. Past performance is not an indication of future performance. Do your own research. All we can do is provide the information for you to decide how you want to play there.
Okay, we have a few minutes left, and I guess this will be a good question to go out on. Let me just get it. Right. I watched one of the latest interviews of yours, Simon, and there you said numerous debt of US dollar will fail and Bitcoin will be the solution for fixing the system. How can Bitcoin fix that debt?
Okay, interesting question. So let's end on a little bit more economics and not Bank to the Future related. Here's the way that I see it. Our financial system is the biggest Ponzi scheme perpetuated by fiat currencies, where there is significantly more obligations than the banks that create the fiat money that has been outsourced from the government. The government only create cash and coins. They outsource this digital currency called the digital US dollar and the digital GBP and the digital euro that you see when you log into your online banking. Every time you see that, that money was created as somebody else's debt, and it was a digital currency not created by the government but created by that bank. The digital currency called the dollar and the euro and the pound, because it's all backed by debt, we have a scenario where in order for the government, because they outsourced the money creation to this new digital currency created at a bank backed by debt, where they have to continually create initiatives in order to get people into debt, in order to get companies into debt, in order to get governments and other governments into debt, in order to get corporations into debt. And when that debt gets too great, they have to use some kind of financial engineering in order to try and solve that, to recycle the debt in this ever-growing Ponzi scheme that can never pay off the original debtors. And so because of this system, they tend to inflate the money away by increasing the supply, by either doing things like quantitative easing through a central bank, or issuing new debt via bonds and treasury products, or stimulating retail banks in order to lend more. And when they can't lend more, they use investment banks in order to package up new products that can be sold to fund managers that are pooling together your pension money and your insurance money. And at the end of the day, it's all recycled in this ginormous Ponzi scheme called traditional finance. What Bitcoin came along and did is said, well, here's an equity-based solution, not a debt-based solution. The money supply and the monetary policy will be crystal clear and will never change. And it will be increased at a fixed emission, whereby every 4 years, the number of new Bitcoins created will halve, and every 10 minutes, you will get new Bitcoins in the economy, which will reward miners for verifying and auditing all transactions on the network. What this has created is a system whereby, because the supply will never change, as the demand for Bitcoin gets bigger, and the demand comes from the traditional financial system failing, it tends to fail because money laundering rules are making the user experience money uncontrollable for rich people, or the people that don't have too much money, their user experience is getting worse because governments are having a war on cash and making cash illegal in order to get more tax collection in a global environment. And those are making more and more people enjoy the user experience of Bitcoin and crypto. And also it's creating this ginormous savings, because once you have Bitcoin, people tend not to want to spend it or sell it because they believe that the fixed money supply means that it's going to reward the people that save over the long term. Very different if you're a short-term speculator, but people buy into these economics of that it rewards the saver long term. So what this does is it creates two competing forces. Traditional money, where the sensible strategy is to go into debt, and the government will do everything and encourage you to go into get debt in order to have economic growth. And the crypto industry, which is an exit from the traditional financial system, where the case of Bitcoin has the world's best shot of achieving sound money that rewards the long-term saver. As the price goes up, the market cap of Bitcoin gets bigger and bigger and bigger. As the fiat money system continues, the debt of governments goes bigger and bigger and bigger, and central banks goes bigger and bigger and bigger, and individuals gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and governments and corporations gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So these debt-based systems and these equity-based systems compete. Now, what happens when a systemic risk event like the financial crisis of 2008 happens? We haven't solved any of those issues. So forward 10 years, we got the same issues, in fact, further, and eventually there's going to be some kind of systemic risk event that creates risk in the banking system again. What are the central banks and the governments likely to do? Well, they're going to create their own blockchain and they're going to replace and allow those banks to go bust. And so they're going to create their own digital currency, but this time created by central bank or the government, in order to replace and allow that bank to go bust so that you don't lose your money. At the same time, you've got Bitcoin getting more and more useful to more and more people. And as that system continues to get worse and the user experience get worse, people start to look at the benefits of owning their own money, spending their own money, and this whole financial system and ecosystem that's being built around that, both in a centralized, decentralized, and all sorts of ways. So this is the power play at the moment. The central banks that start using Bitcoin as a reserve currency, as well as their gold, as well as their dollar, are going to be the ones that are going to benefit. Just like Bulgaria found some Bitcoin that they seized from somebody and used that to actually pay off all their national debt, because now they're not in debt because the value of their Bitcoin is worth more. Just like Mt. Gox, the people that the creditors that owed that money suddenly are out of liquidation because the value of those Bitcoins increased so much over time that the company is now in a strange scenario. I'm forecasting central banks around the world that dedicate some of their resources to mining and make a small bet on having some of their reserves is going to create a game theoretical scenario where there's a game of chicken, and the central bank that does it last will be the ones that doesn't have the Bitcoin reserves, as we have this apolitical system that is not controlled by any individual currency or not controlled by any individual country. And Bitcoin has this force that firstly keeps traditional fiat currencies more honest because there is an exit and a choice, and also regulates regulators because you have an option of opting out of these systems and going into the hardware wallet peer-to-peer system as the centralized systems try to get better and better and better to make sure that doesn't happen. So I feel that Bitcoin creating this opportunity in a once-in-a-lifetime, kind of scenario or chain of events is what is actually going to lead to more honesty in traditional, crony capitalism, more honesty in fiat currencies, and it's also those that are going to create their rubbish versions of Bitcoin, their centralized blockchains. They're going to decrease the user experience of money as they try and automate tax collection and all sorts of things are going to come from that. The regulators are going to prefer it. It's going to create an opportunity for them. Governments are going to like it, but then there's an exit as well. So therefore you have this system that can work and I think improve lots of different areas in terms of systemic risk of the financial system, opportunities for regulators and governments, and those that want to exit, and that exit regulates the regulator and creates competition within traditional fiat currencies. Huge answer, great place to end, probably gone over time, but as I said, and this is what we bought into at Bank to the Future, why we provide these investment opportunities for qualifying investors that want to build a portfolio, because we believe that the future of finance looks very different from the past. One product at a time, one company at a time. Each financial product is going to be the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And because we buy into that philosophy, we wanted to invest in different companies that could support that vision happening and allow our qualifying investors in an environment of who can actually invest to co-invest on the same terms as the venture capitalists and the other professional investors that also buy into that vision. So I think that's a great place to end. Thank you for bringing up those questions, Famida. I'm glad I managed to keep it down to half an hour. I have a tendency to overtalk. If you enjoyed this video, please do like it. Please do share it. Please do add your comments to the live chat so that we can pick them up next week. Please do use hashtag BFLive if you're watching the recording so that we can respond there. Join our Telegram channel, join in the conversation. And if you qualify to invest, then please do create an account on BnkToTheFuture.com. See if you qualify so that then you can join. Or if you've got financial technology that you think is going to be disruptive in the world of finance, then please do apply for finance. Our investment committee can have a look at that and see if we can work together in any capacity. There's all the perks of using the Bank to the Future token as discussed as part of our ecosystem in order to get discounted trading fees, building a portfolio on our secondary market, getting premium access to such deals, and also a reward token that we'll be rolling out for those that conduct investor relations and due diligence. So please do subscribe so that we can notify you. YouTube can notify if you press that bell button. And that's going to do it for this episode of episode lucky number 13, or unlucky for some of you. We like 13 of Bank to the Future Live. Thank you.